Daring to question any narrative created by the Democrats and the media makes you a Nazi, a fascist, or a criminal, or all three. Because they own science, and you will follow it, even if they're proven wrong. Even if the science doesn't exist, doesn't matter. Anthony Fauci, an end of an era came, held his last press briefing as vaccinator-in-chief by doubling down on the myth that the vaccines are effective.
Please get vaccinated. Get your vaccine. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce and welcome Dr. Fauci for his last run at the podium. All yours, Dr. Fauci.
Thank you very much, Kareem, for that really very, very kind introduction. It's really a great pleasure to be back here with you again, albeit, I believe, for the last time. But as Kareem said, I'm going to spend the next just couple of minutes talking to you about the importance of getting an updated booster vaccine as we enter into the holiday season and the colder weeks and months of the late fall and early winter. So let's just talk very briefly about what we know about the vaccines, because we want to make our decisions really based on facts, evidence, and data. Are the vaccines safe? That keeps coming up. The answer is now, overwhelmingly, it should be off the table. There have been 13 billion doses of a COVID-19 vaccine that have been distributed worldwide, hundreds of millions in the United States, and there's robust safety monitoring systems that are in place, and clearly an extensive body of information clearly indicates that they're safe.
We know that the vaccines do not prevent infection. They don't prevent the spread. We get no talk from the scientists about side effects, like why all of a sudden there's so many young people with myocarditis. We also know that Fauci never defended the vaccine development process while Donald Trump was president. So when someone actually practicing journalism dared to follow up questions, KJP was having none of it.
About this.
Dr. Fauci, only 13% of...
Hold on one second. We have a process here. I'm not calling out on people who yell. And you're being disrespectful to your colleagues, and you're being disrespectful to our guests. I will not call on you if you yell, and also you're taking time off the clock because Dr. Fauci has to leave in a couple of minutes. I'm done. I'm not getting into a back and forth with you. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Dr. Fauci,
but she's
only
asking 30 great questions.
You're not Jeremy. Go ahead, Jeremy.
You ask your question. You should allow her to answer the question.
Jeremy.
She asked a valid
Jeremy.
question, Dr. Fauci, on the origin of COVID-19.
It is not your turn. It is not your turn.
You can't on the same people. That's not the thing. You can't read a press briefing. You need to call from people across the room. She has a valid question. She's asking about the origin of COVID-19.
I hear the question.
And Dr. Fauci is the best person to answer.
I hear your question, but we're not doing this the way you want it.
They still won't answer a question about the origin of COVID. They just won't do it. Isn't that amazing? But we're the experts here. We know everything. We just don't know where it came from, right? We don't know. We won't talk to you about natural immunity, people who had it and have natural antibodies, all that sort of thing. Just get vaccinated because we said so. And by the way, we didn't always just say so. Don't you love it when they accuse people of being vaccine deniers? Now, look, does the vaccine prevent more serious symptoms? Could it save some lives from people who take it voluntarily? Sure. But that's not exactly what people like Kamala Harris and Joe Biden were saying when it was inconvenient during the election cycle. Here's Kamala Harris.
For life to get back to normal, Dr. Anthony Fauci and other experts say that most of the people who can be vaccinated need to be vaccinated. But half of Americans now say they wouldn't take a vaccine if it was released now. If the Trump administration approves a vaccine before or after the election, should Americans take it, and would you take it?
If the public health professionals, if Dr. Fauci, if the doctors tell us that we should take it, I'll be the first in line to take it. Absolutely. But if Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
Oh, so I'm going to raise vaccine hesitancy to make people think there might be some inherent danger as long as Donald Trump is president. Joe Biden said the exact same thing.
It's utterly disqualifying. I trust vaccines, I trust scientists, but I don't trust Donald Trump. And at this moment, the American people can't either.
That was all forgotten. Why? Because they own science. We don't even ask the question, how many people died because they were told not to take the vaccine because of Trump? The vaccine only became this religious-like experience when Biden became president. Now, again, Trump, to his credit, said the vaccine should be taken voluntarily. Biden wanted to use force, but Trump is the fascist. Now we're being told that we dare not question the science of gender identity, even when we're dealing with our own children. On top of that, we dare not question what is being presented to our children and who is presenting it, because it's all based in science, because they said so. Now, we had this tragic shooting in Colorado. I will sit here and say to you that this is wrong. But to say that conservatives who have questions about genital mutilation, double mastectomies, what is being taught to 5- and 6-year-olds does not make one responsible for what took place in that bar in Colorado. And I will not stop talking about it. I am not responsible. You're not responsible. The shooter's responsible. But that doesn't stop someone named Ben Collins, who's an expert in nothing, on MSNBC.
Here are some headlines that I wrote the last 6 months. Fueled by internet's far-right machine, anti-LGBTQ threats shut down trans rights and drag events. Remember, there was a drag event happening in Colorado. Yeah. Anti-trans stalkers at Kiwi Farms, which is a anti-trans website that stalks people, are chasing one victim around the world. Their list of targets is growing. That was a couple months ago. Doctors under threat from far-right activists for providing trans care. Boston Children's Hospital faces bomb threat after right-wing harassment campaign. There were 3 of those bomb threats. FBI charges Massachusetts woman with Boston Children's Hospital bomb threats, so they found one of the people. At least 20 Republican politicians have claimed that schools are making accommodations for students who identify as cats. That was before the midterms. Here are 3 more from my colleagues in the last 3 weeks. As election nears, some conservative groups have ramped up anti-trans campaign ads. Far-right figures appear to be testing Twitter's boundaries for anti-LGBTQ speech. GOP senator targets TikTok influencer with anti-transgender taunts. And I'm just wondering, what could I have done different? Seriously, as reporters, what can we do different? Because there are 5 dead people in a strip mall, because that was the only place they felt safe as gay or trans people in this town in Colorado Springs.
So if you question anything, any narrative that we're behind, you are responsible for this. One more clip. Somebody named Brandy Zadrozny comes right out and blames conservatives and media.
Brandy, explain that when you hear that, your reaction to it, and then kind of walk us through how rhetoric online, rhetoric from politicians can ultimately trickle down into real life, and seeing examples of what happened over the weekend.
Yeah, the response is heartbreaking. I mean, it's a group of marginalized, vulnerable people who are disproportionately the victims of these sort of hate crimes, who are just simply saying, please stop. Please stop making money and gaining political power on our backs and on violence against us. And seemingly the answer from everybody is no, we won't stop that because it's too politically expedient, or it makes us too much money and we don't want to, or we don't know how. I've been following this since about March and April. We follow, online hate trends, I guess. And since April and March, really, the LGBT community has been the main focus of this hatred. There is a pipeline. It starts from some smaller accounts online, like Libs of TikTok. It moves to the right-wing blogosphere, and then it ends up on Tucker Carlson, or it ends up out of a right-wing politician's mouth. And it's a really dangerous cycle that does have real-world consequences.
Don't you ever open your mouth again. They own science. Anything you say can and will be used against you in the court of public opinion and NBC News. They are going to undermine you. They are going to do as they please to your children because they own science. The fact that there is no science is irrelevant, but they own silence, and you will be quiet.